I'm 2 weeks into my dream job now, and I was trying to throw together a topic that would be relevant to brands, startups, VCs alike. And I'm going to tell a story that may be partially familiar to you, so there are terms that you may have heard already, but I'm going to try to add a little more texture to bring up some new things to think about these days. I know from working inside a manufacturing company, the digital commerce, even if it may not be a huge percentage of the new revenue right now, is expected to be a huge, impactful source of future revenue for big brands. However, it is really hard for a large corporate system to keep up to these new demands. We're still really early in this journey when you think about it. So there's the beginning of commerce. I've heard a lot of brand manufacturers say things like, we make stuff and we sell stuff. It's not that hard. These are the days of making things and selling things. E-commerce allowed us to have a new way to sell, a new channel to sell on. We've heard about omnichannel. This has been a buzzword for a few years now. So, how do we do omnichannel? These are things like starting online and getting fulfilled offline, right? Bricks and clicks. Or maybe starting offline and having the fulfillment be online. Everything in between. Paying for something at a BP pump station. Now, the new buzzword that is starting to come out is adaptive commerce. I saw this about 4 years ago. It's becoming more and more present in vocabulary about the future of commerce. It has to do with highly personalized experiences. So this isn't just configuring your Nikes. This has to do with creating stores where the physical retail footprint is, in fact, geographically targeted, like the Nike Melrose store, where the merchandising is different based on that demographic. Earlier entries to this space were things like Story in New York. We're starting to see local Amazon stores carry things that are trending in that neighborhood. And still there's more. There is a space that not a ton of brands have thought about in earnest because it probably gives them a sense of panic, which is this anticipatory or dynamic world of commerce. You can imagine a time and place where you show up in your hotel room and what you plan to wear for that week is in your closet, and the stuff you like is in the fridge, and the fitness equipment that you like to use is there. And maybe the bed is a little different for you. So it's not just the sort of dynamic personalization that we think of that can occur online, but a kind of offline extension of that experience. This is not so far from reality. These are the last few products that showed up in my Facebook newsfeed. The interesting thing to me is I know a lot about the qualities of this product. So I haven't purchased Allbirds, but I know they come in about 6 different colors. There's about 4 different styles of them. I can throw them in the washing machine, take them back out again. Do you guys have Allbirds? Raise your hand if you do. Okay, there's a few early adopters. I'm on the verge of clicking on this one. Third Love, answer 6 questions, get a perfectly fitting bra. I own a Quip toothbrush. It's amazing. I can stick it to the mirror in my hotel room. And my favorite right now, which is Away luggage. The thing about Away that's so captivating to me is that they explain what this thing is in really human terms that are totally jiving with how I interpret my world. So do I want to go away for 3 days or 10 days? Am I getting on a small plane or a big plane? They even point out things that were relatively unimportant to me a few days ago, which is the markup between what I'm paying at a retail space and how much I'm paying for this fantastic piece of luggage online. I know the founder, one of the founders is in that picture right there, cares about travel herself. So all of this is engineered for me. A lot of you have seen graphics like this. We think that, okay, so if we just get our brands up to par with Away, we'll be there. We will have met the final destination of contextual and personal. But of course, the ball keeps rolling. It is hard to get your head around that when you're part of a large corporation or part of an entity that's churning out billion-dollar brands. Those brands still have to matter, right? And paying to have them reinforced online does still work, but there's a lot of suffering happening right now. So big brands are feeling the stress of having to show up in new ways, in new contexts, with different information, making use of new channels that their corporate systems may not be built for. And so we see a collision, a very real collision that a lot of manufacturers are facing right now, which is the collision of consistency and context, okay? The way that you used to protect a brand was to put really rigid codes around it, like this is the only lockup we can ever use, these are the only colors we can ever use, here's the description, here's the planogram for a store. The more we keep this consistent, the more the brand will thrive. That is bumping up head on into context, things like the Nike Melrose store, the ability to show up according to what matters at a place and time. It is a hard battle, and so the question comes up, how far does brand loyalty go? How much are we willing to stand up for something that we're loyal to? I had a very personal experience with this recently. I was looking for some shoes that our son used to have, and I know that the manufacturer was Italian, so I Googled Italian children's shoes, and I couldn't find them, you know, but I'm still committed. I'm still committed to finding this, and I know a thing about keywords, so I'm now like Italian kid shoes, right? Still trying, I finally find them. I get onto their website and it's half in Italian, which I'm working my way through. But I finally end up going to good old Amazon to see if I can get them there. The size isn't right. They don't have the right size. And so while I'm looking for the right size, I stumble upon a couple other good offers that look interesting to me, have really interesting features to them, are delivered in 2 days and a lot less expensive. So that, for me, was the moment at which I aborted my loyalty that lasted a good 5 minutes, 5 to 7 minutes online, right? And I think this will continue to be the struggle, quite honestly, as we see the confluence or convergence of spaces. So there's a new boutique in San Francisco that is a co-working space where you can buy stuff. We're starting to see, this graphic is from a presentation on hotel rooms of the future. This woman is sort of changing the background or the window in her room. We're starting to see this convergence of spaces, so living space, working space, retail space, private space, public space. And we'll have more and more crises of identities on the manufacturing side and really interesting opportunities to be developing against these problems of how can I continue to make money in the future, okay? So the questions are, what products and brands will show up for consumers? Why will they show up? Is it feature-based? Is it purely feature-based? Is it out of brand loyalty? Will people demand them? And how will they show up? So, of course, not answering this in 9 minutes, but starting to generate some things to keep in mind. Number one, it's really easy to become invisible. So we all know that once you're delisted from Amazon, it can take a while to regain that shelf space. It's not like the simple old-fashioned restocking, just get someone in to put it back there. So it will become harder to avoid invisibility for large manufacturers, more places that are driven by algorithms that people have to keep up with. The goalposts will always be moving, so it's important to be flexible. I think it's important to be flexible and then be really, really sure about what stays the same. Product data used to be something that was very, very formatted, very rigidly kept, never interfered with, and now it has to show up in a certain way for Amazon, a different way for Tesco, a different way for Walmart. It's probably gonna show up a different way in your hotel room, a different way in your connected kitchen. I like the point about, you know, what will be the future operating system of the connected home. I myself am curious about that as well. And then finally, context will continue to win in a jump ball over sameness. So the ability to come through in human terms, to be dynamic, to take advantage of opportunities that arise. I learned in my Salsify onboarding that there was a spike in Elmer's glue sales when do-it-yourself slime became a trend for kids. And that's something that maybe that brand manufacturer hadn't thought about or anticipated, but what an awesome opportunity to become relevant in that conversation. And that's just a small fraction of these kinds of ephemeral opportunities that will begin to exist. So some things to think about. Obviously, no solution to the problem, but more opportunities to innovate against it. So thank you.